Most people know the textbook version of the Central High integration crisis. There were 9 African American students who were turned away from the doors of the all-white school by an angry mob, and only got in when President Eisenhower sent federal troops to escort them. It made national news for over 3 weeks. But in this book of student interviews, one of the stories shows just how far the headlines about the Little Rock Nine actually spread.
My father was lying down on his bed. The air conditioning kicked in before I could ask a question about the integration, so I decided to wait until the room was cool. My father, who was in Vietnam during the integration in America, had learned about it with his classmates. He took a sip of water and told me to go ahead and start.
I was 12 years old at the time of the Central High integration, and the teacher would keep the class up to date on what had been happening in America. She would tell us about racism and how they are also against Asians and not only African Americans. The Vietnamese newspaper was made up of news from Vietnam and some current news of America. I had felt bad for the African Americans who had to suffer through the integration and all the racism. During the early 70s, I wasn't scared to go to Europe or even Canada. But because of the racism, I was frightened to go to the United States.
My father stared up at the ceiling. He became quiet for a while. When he finished, he got up to refill his water. When he was about to leave, he told me,
I know how the African Americans felt during segregation and how the Caucasians were racist.
I could see that his choice to go to the United States when racism was this bad was a difficult one. It took courage for him to stand up to people who were racist. I see how my dad could connect to African Americans and how they felt when they were treated poorly.